Well, good afternoon. I'm Doris Pierce, Director for the Disability Resource Center at the University of Central Arkansas. And beside me, I have two, um, two faculty members who are actually advisors for the Autism and Neurodiversity Alliance um, organization that is on our campus. So I would like for them to introduce themselves also.
Hi, I'm Becky Boguslavsky. And I'm the coordinator for the autism program, and then Cindy, go ahead.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm Cindy Lee. I work in the Honors College at UCA, and the Autism Alliance group is something that we started because we saw a need that our autistic students were having, and so definitely, I feel like everybody has been working on it together, so we've been really happy with the support we've gotten.
So, our Disability Resource Center office, basically our mission is to provide an accessible and inclusive environment where students' potential is maximized through the fostering of independence, self-advocacy, and individual student holistic development. Our office's main function is to provide accommodations for UCA programs, events, and courses for students with disabilities. And of course, our accommodations are covered, whether they be academic, classroom testing, housing, dining accommodations, or any other accommodations to accommodate certain events on campus. Or it's mainly covered under the Americans with Disabilities Act, Amendments Act of 2008. Okay, and so there are many accommodations that our students can be approved for. Of course, that is on a case-by-case basis, and so normally a student, when they are introduced to our office, is generally after they've been accepted to UCA. We do, of course, have students and parents who come and do tours at UCA, and then they can also schedule a tour and a visit with our office to sit down and talk about what accommodations may be possible based on the impact of the student's disability, functional limitations. And so mainly once a student applies and is accepted to UCA, they can set up an appointment with our office. So both the parent and the student are welcome to attend. And they present documentation. We talk about, like I said before, impact of disability, strengths and weaknesses, and things of that nature. So where actually our autism advocacy program comes in, that is under the Department for Student Transitions, where they come in basically is that once a student with autism is interested in finding out more about how to be more socially active on campus, how they can, build their confidence, if there's going to be any support system outside of our office and outside of those accommodations that they're approved for, we actually refer them to the Autism Advocacy Program. And so Becky Boguslavsky is the coordinator of that program, and actually it's a growing program. In fall of 2021, it will be a program that it will be open to all students. And actually Becky does work with some students right now as well. So Becky, do you want to talk more about
Right, the autism program right now, and the way it's evolving is providing extra academic support, help with transition. So for those students who come in and might need some help with study skills, might need some help with just someone to check in with, someone to keep an eye on them, make sure that things are working right or working well. I help refer them out to different resources on campus if they need that. Right now, most of the students I see the reason they come to me is because they started and they've gotten into a crisis mode. They're not doing well in a class, or things are not going well, and so they start coming to see me usually once a week. I've had students show up 3 times a week, in some of those times whenever they're really stressed. And then we also have a freshman class, a transition class that we deal with, that they sign up for, and it's basically a little bit of study skills, life skills, safety, starting with job training. We're also trying to include job training now, so they get we're hopefully going to have job training all 4 years. So something to help them get on that job track. So that's what we're working
And Cindy, if you want to talk about the Autism and Neurodiversity Alliance group.
Okay. So that group was started a couple of years ago, and we wanted the students themselves to design that group, and so they had to tell us, how often did they want to meet, and when did they want those meetings to be. And very quickly, it was obvious that we had some students who were on campus, some students who were off campus. So we have like a meeting once a month that's during the daytime, because we have that kind of flexible hour on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's called X period. And so we can take one of those as our daytime meeting. And then we try to have a 5 o'clock meeting once a month too, where we have like a meal. And then they decided this year they wanted to become an official RSO. And so they've done that. And then they've started doing different kind of community service activities. So this year they've signed up to do the big event, which is a day where a lot of UCA students sign up from different organizations, and then they're sent out in the community to do like some kind of public service. It could be raking leaves in somebody's yard, or building a wheelchair accessible, ramp or something like that. And so this will be the first year that they've signed up to do stuff like that. When Temple Grandin came, they made a point of getting a special meeting specifically with her and them, and that was really cool to see. And then each year I have a class in the Honors College where we try to ask them what's a way that we could help you. And so the Department of Student Transitions had set aside a room that was like a low sensory lounge. And the faculty there had started donating like couches and chairs and things of that nature. But my class tried to help with that as far as trying to get some of the last things to kind of decorate the room, and then having an event to kind of publicize that it was there, because a lot of students just didn't have the knowledge that it was there. But definitely this year I've seen a lot more students coming in, and so they were able to get like a weighted blanket in there. They had some OT alumni who sent specific sensory devices. I don't know exactly what you would call them. And then they got like a little, they got several sets of noise canceling headphones. They got a little tent that you can kind of go and have a total deprivation little room they can go into.
I've seen them zipping themselves up at finals week
Yeah.
in the tent.
Yeah. And so that was one of the things we worked on. We also one year worked on trying to create like a template of something that they could write to their faculty members and talk to them about what are their strengths, because a lot of times if students don't introduce themselves, we try to say, faculty are just human beings, and you need to kind of humanize yourself to this person. But what I find is sometimes students just want to say, I need this accommodation and this. And so we tried to do a template where we say, why don't you talk about what your strengths are? Because I have children with autism as well. And I used to write a letter to their teachers, and I would always say, here's what my child is really good at. And they always told me that letter was really helpful. And so I kind of was trying to base it off of that, and then being a faculty member myself, what are the things that I would like to know? And so if a child, has a talent with memorizing things, or has a talent with public speaking, or there's some things that they don't see as being as big an asset as a faculty member would. Because I have students in the Honors College who do not want to be called on. They are terrified to do public speaking. And so if you have somebody who has that talent, they think it's just natural to have that talent. But it's not. It's a big asset. And so that's part of what those letters are about, is teaching them that you have to tell people what your strengths are, even if they don't seem like that to you. And so, and of course, because of HIPAA, the Disability Services Office really can't tell a faculty member anything about what their diagnosis is. And so if there's a way for you to talk about your accommodations that can help them to understand why that's important, and it's totally up to you if you say what the diagnosis is, but even if you don't, if you can say, I have trouble in this area and this is why this accommodation will help me, then the faculty member is just, I think, more understanding about it. And so anyway, so that was another project we did. And so there's all the time we try to, you know, go in and ask them what they want to do next, and then just let them lead us. So this year they've partnered with Community Connections to try to open up that nighttime meeting to the people in the community who are in like the social groups that Community Connections have. And that way they can it's kind of a way, I think, to get them to transition. And then some of our students have been going to those social group meetings as well to kind of mentor in that way. So.
Thank you so much, Cindy. So of course we've done the majority of the talking. So if you would, share with us what some of your concerns are. Tell us a little bit about your kiddos, and and how you feel like our offices and our programs could be able to help them, possibly.
Well, I have a 16-year-old that I'll be navigating whether college is a real possibility, and we believe it is, and it'll be a stretch, but we're excited about that with these supports in place. So I guess the application process is where I would begin with questions, for
Sure.
a student with disabilities.
Sure. So basically the application process for a student with a disability is the same as meaning application to UCA, correct?
Right.
Okay, so the application process is the same for a student with a disability as it would be for any other student. There aren't any different qualifications that a student with a disability has to meet. So, of course, general admission requirements at any college or university is normally ACT, SAT scores, and, of course, transcript and a certain cumulative grade point average. Applications at times may cost money. I know that, but here at UCA, if you go through a Fairfax Day, like the day of the Fairfax Day, it's usually that application fee is waived. And Fairfax Days are a great way for the student and parent to find out more about the university. Speaking of that, at our Fairfax Days, we do have a sensory-friendly room where there's information there for the parent and the student to be able to pick up and to be able to talk to an ambassador about UCA, just out of the fray of the Fairfax Day experience. And so you're still getting that same experience, just on a lower sensory-friendly level.
Sure.
So going through all of that, our application process actually started in August. So I believe that, whereas 2 years ago, I believe it was in October, but they're starting the application process a little bit earlier at colleges and universities. I know I have twin girls that are 17 in their senior year, and so they're still not quite solid on where they want to go. I do have a kiddo with a disability and one without, and so still, making those choices even now, and I have to be very patient. Because I'm like, I've worked in higher ed for 17 years. I know what's coming next. You're already behind. But I have to be very patient with them, and because I want them to go where they feel comfortable, and where they feel like they'll be more successful. But definitely, there's, of course, I believe I've mentioned the ACT, SAT score, the application, the possible application fee. And I believe that's pretty much, and of course scholarships, based on the ACT, they do super score. So there are certain ACT scores that certain scholarships, students can apply for those at those levels. And think of anything else? And of course, definitely the thing I like the best about UCA when it comes to admissions, and of course you're getting a tour on campus, but you can also sit down and meet with that departmental spokesperson or a departmental representative that admissions has, that's available to talk about that certain major. That's also something that happens on Fairfax Days. So after the initial, speech about financial aid and housing, which everyone would be interested in, and then of course you get the welcome program. There's actually a section where there are students who they're interested in a certain major, certain division groups. They go into those actual departments and sit down, and they actually have professors that sit down and tell them about the certain major. and they get to ask questions, and you get to ask questions, and so that just really gives a face to the degree plan that student's going to be following for the rest of their career, college career there at UCA. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
It's been like a long time ago since I was in college, so I can't remember like the tour process. Like you actually already have to be applied and accepted to the school before you take a tour. And when you do take a tour, can the student and the parents have some visibility or to some of these autism advocacy type programs that you have there as during part of the tour?
So in the tour, you student doesn't have to be admitted into UCA to
Okay.
actually have a tour. A lot of the students that come into Fairfax Day, a lot of the students and parents, they're actually not already admitted. I would say about maybe 75% of those that are coming are not already admitted to UCA.
Okay.
They're just exploring. It's kind of like a college day, preview day, kind of sort of. Where parents and students get to look at UCA through a certain lens, and it's a day where the rest of campus is shut down, so they can focus just on you and your kiddo. So, but what was your second
So are the
question?
tours like there's specific days for
Okay.
those that they do you've got the bear?
Right, the
Facts?
Fairfax days,
Uh-huh.
yes.
That's
So,
when the tours, okay.
right, there are 2 in the fall and 1 in the spring.
Okay. Approximately like, so we probably haven't had the spring one yet for this year, right, or have we?
The spring one was in January.
Oh, okay,
yes.
it was, okay.
Mhm.
So we
But
need to
you can
shoot
still
for
take a
fall.
tour of the campus, and you can
do
still
a private tour.
mhm, a private tour of the campus. Yes.
Oh, you can?
Thank you.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. They always have student ambassadors, and through the Office of Admissions, they can set up a private tour for you, and they can still set up private meetings with departments if you're wanting to meet with them.
Right.
It's just not kind of the big push with all of the, kind of what Fairfax Day does is it brings everybody together in one place for you to kind of look through them all at once. Whereas when you do a private tour, it's better if you know just a few places you probably want to talk to people, and so.
Yeah,
And we've had people come in and just talk to the autism advocacy program.
Okay.
And, so you can
Mhm.
pick and choose which one is.
because we don't, my son doesn't know a major field of major yet, but I think from a parent's perspective, and even from his perspective, I think it'd be interesting just to see the autism, the advocacy type programs that you have there
Right.
as part of the
Yeah.
tour.
Well, most of the students don't know a major, but that's part of that freshman class that I talked about. We
Uh-huh.
go with career services, they have a test that they run them through, and then we talk
So
about
Is that class
discerning.
open to everyone and freshmen generally take it, or is it?
It is a freshman class only, so we only have freshmen in there, entering freshmen. It's reserved for students on the spectrum, but then it opens up, we do have some who are neurotypical. Usually it's nursing students who are interested in health fields or who have family members, or some of them have ADHD or other disabilities. So it pretty much opens up, but we certainly reserve some seats for any student on the spectrum who wants to take it.
Okay.
And that's an actual class that they'll take for
Yes,
that semester?
and they get 3 credit hours for it.
So is there a similar class that's generally given,
There's,
like, to the general student
Yes,
population?
right, yes.
So do they have to
Mhm.
take them both, or are
No,
they
no.
similar? Okay.
so it's an ACAT 1100, which is
didn't go to-
basically study. I know, of course you wouldn't. Why would you? It's
Because I went
it's
to
a
college.
study skills introductory class to UCA, but we've
Mhm.
set aside this particular section for these students.
Okay. Excellent.
Yes.
One thing about the process too, and every student is different into what they're looking for at college, but if there's somebody who's interested in the honors college, there's more kind of to that admission process. There's there's essays they have to submit and recommendations they have to get, but there is a piece in person where you have to write an essay when you come to the interview. And we have definitely had autistic students who've asked for accommodation on that piece, and so they've, needed to use a computer where other people have been just handwriting their
yeah.
essay really quickly. So, I think at any point, if you think of a way where a student might need accommodation, just be sure and
And definitely during the intake appointment that we have during our office, feel free to let us know all of the things that your kiddo may be struggling with. We want to make sure that they have there are also going to be those things that they experience along the way as college students, but we want them to have those accommodations to be able to help them to be able to get through, those times when they're just going to be, for sure that they're going to be struggling. So, definitely that's where that conversation starts. And then that's information that we will definitely provide to Becky and through the program, and then just having them set up a time with her to meet with her, on a weekly, bi-weekly basis as their schedule allows. So we definitely want to know what's going on so we can be able to help them to choose to be successful.
That's very exciting. I love that you're tailoring it to the individual needs.
At what point in that in application or registration or enrollment process does that, is there a discussion that takes place about, these are the kind of modifications that my child has had in their school, like their high school environment?
Right.
What type of modifications will they have access to in the college environment?
Sure.
But when does that discussion take place, or kind of how, at a high level, how does that go?
So during the intake appointment, we do ask specific questions. Generally, what difficulties do you experience when you're listening to lecture and trying to write notes at the same time? When it comes to the testing environment, what difficulties do you experience when you're trying to take tests in the classroom with everyone else? And definitely, what difficulties do you experience when you're having issues understanding textbook information as it's written? So just having those open-ended questions and looking over documentation, and with the student self-report, we come up with those accommodations that are going to be applicable to that student's success. So definitely, and it's for sure definitely a case-by-case basis. Of course, there are some definitely modifications, or we know IDEA Section 504, but there are some modifications that when we look at them, we can say, oh, okay, why don't we look at this as an accommodation? Because, there may be something, of course, modifications a student has used, forever in the K-12 system. And so there may be some modifications that accommodations may be able to take over for. And will definitely for sure benefit them a little bit more as they're going along their college journey and reading college material and things of that nature. We also have, and I've totally forgotten about this, a faculty accommodation meeting. And so particularly for students with autism with this population, we do set up those meetings. And so we do have a primary advisor. Unfortunately, she couldn't be with us this evening, but we have a primary advisor who is over our autistic student population. And so what she does is she sets up a faculty accommodation meeting with herself as the DRC representative, and the faculty attend the meeting as well, and parents are welcome to attend that meeting also. Because when we sit down in the intake appointment, we do take into account that a parent of a student with autism definitely knows what's going on. That's going to help us to be able to help that student acclimate to the college setting. Most of all is the experiences that you've had with them as their parents for 17, 18 years. We understand that we are not the experts there. And so we do understand too that they may have some difficulty, acclimating to the social environment. We want to know how we can help with that. And then of course there are some classroom environments that they may have difficulty acclimating to. And so when faculty bring their syllabi to the meetings and they sit down and talk about the different things that they can do to help that student be successful, or for them to get the same experience as a student without a disability, it's very, very important to us. And then there are some faculty who may not be able to meet within that group setting, and the student may not be comfortable with that either, but that's okay. We do have individual office hour meetings with those faculty as well. And so that's just all a part of us, like I said, being able to help them to choose to be successful in the college setting at UCA. It's definitely something we started 2 years ago. It's been very effective. And then we invite Becky to come along too as well, when her schedule allows. And so, yeah, it's a really seamless process. And it does help them to get more, they feel like their faculty are more invested in them being successful in that course when they see them at those faculty accommodation meetings. So.
Can I add for you real fast?
Sure, you sure can. You can actually join us because at first the camera was right there, so you sure can.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, please join us.
I'm a little bit late. My name is Rebecca Quarter. Hello. I have a son with autism and I have ADHD. I'm also a student at UCA and I receive services.
Oh, cool.
I have a 504 and the process is amazing. I am from Jersey, so I didn't know that I actually had accommodations when I was younger. And I moved here when I was 16 and I didn't have any of them or any paperwork. And I went back to school in fall of 18 in for psychology to help my son to get educational background for being an advocate. And the professors were amazing. It was actually a professor who actually pointed out my test anxiety, which it was pretty bad. And they immediately, I was like at the counseling center, and then I was in testing, and then I got approved. Like,
Wow.
it was seamless. It was beautiful, and I can tell you from a student and faculty perspective, it's pretty amazing. I have one professor who didn't really know how to. I have double time on my tests. I have reduced distraction in the testing center, and everybody's amazing. And then I also have my books on audio, a different format, and so all of that helps very much so, and they make it amazing. I just needed to say that. So.
Oh, thank you
But,
so much, Rebecca.
I have a professor who wasn't really associated with accommodations, not associated, but familiar with the accommodations, and so they worked really well with him, and he's been there for a very long time, and he knows now how to do it, and I actually taught him something. So I was really shocked. He admitted, like, he was just like, "You taught me something." I was like, "Oh,
So
thanks." I
you
didn't
were
really
a
do that,
blessing.
but yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but yeah, he's been there for a long time. He's wonderful. He accidentally doubled the whole time for the entire class.
I
He didn't know how to
appreciate
just
Right.
He didn't know how to just double the time for me. So, yeah, the whole class, I didn't say anything. I was like, because when it wasn't double timed again, it would have been.
Right. Yes.
But anyway, I went back in fall of 18. It was the first semester, my first test, and I had my professor at the time had pointed it out. I was the last one to turn my test in, which I had always been since I could remember that student to be the last one to do that. So it was just nice to have faculty approach me because it was something that I probably never would have done myself. And so after testing and everything and realizing, oh wow, I also have like a processing learning disability, so kind of like the encoding and retrieval is slow, but once I got it. So but yeah, so it was, as a student, it was amazing to have it go as well as it did. But anyway,
Well,
That's good to
yours is
hear.
great.
Oh, thank you so
Into
much
it.
for sharing your journey. I
I'm in their
appreciate
office
that.
a lot.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
However you need us, whenever you need us, please come
It's
by.
good to know that there's faculty on campus that are aware of what y'all are doing and willing to talk to students about it, and then you have a faculty member who was not aware of what to do but was very receptive. Do you find that with
Right.
most of your faculty
Right.
that if they know what the requirement is, that they're open to doing what
I've
is
never come
needed?
across a faculty member who didn't want to help and they
Right.
knew. And that's where, like you said, if you don't tell if your daughter doesn't have to, she won't do it. Was it you who said that? Oh,
Probably me.
maybe it was you.
That sounds like Rachel.
It's amazing how many students won't go talk to a professor when they're struggling. But they've got to get, if you
Mhm.
tell them you have to go, then they'll go. But yeah, they won't automatically do it. So that's why we have the supports. But it's good to know that
It works.
Right.
Yeah,
Yes.
I've been in the history department, mostly psychology, so I'm a psych major, and my minor's sped. And I don't know, it's very receptive. If I need help, and I'm that student, like I probably have annoying like next to my name because I'm always emailing and double checking and making sure everything's crossing my T's, dotting my I's, and but a lot of my professors don't feel like that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, no, I appreciate that you have such passion about
Yeah.
getting it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good, because
Absolutely.
I do feel like I come across kind of just overbearing at
But
times.
that's part of that self-advocacy piece that, like I
That's
said, was in
huge.
our mission. And so we do complete DRCTU faculty trainings. I got like 3 whole new staffers in last fall, so I thought I would give them a breather of, an academic year breather, and to where I could train them in and everything, and then we'll get started with that again in the fall. But it's where we go to each faculty department, because we know we do have faculty that may come from the K through 12 system that's used to IDEA Section 504 accommodations, and then all of a sudden they're getting an accommodation letter in their email inbox, and they're like, oh, okay, this is different, and we know that we'll get that faculty member who is an adjunct instructor or graduate assistant, who has not taught a student with a disability before. And so that's where we go to each department and sit down and talk with them about accommodations that may be applicable to their area, and maybe some accommodations that might seem to be a tad bit challenging based on the impact of disability. And of course, we also work with students with ADD, ADHD, psychological learning disabilities, chronic medical disabilities. And so there are a myriad of accommodations that our faculty haven't had, they just haven't had exposure to yet. And so that's why we go to their departments and sit down and talk with them and have them ask questions and let them know, hey, we're here for you. Not only are we here for the student, but we're here for you too. We don't only just do and take appointments. We're here to help you and to help educate you, develop you, to help you with that student. So that's definitely another arm of what we do. So.
You might want to mention FERPA. I don't know if they.
Oh, yes. Excuse me. So it's different when you have a video camera on. You forget everything. So yes, the faculty accommodation means I'll go back to those. So definitely our students, and we automatically do this now. For our students with autism, we automatically have the student sign a FERPA form for the parent, because like I said before, you've experienced your kid for as long as they've been diagnosed with autism, and so we want to know how to be able to help them acclimate to the college environment successfully. And so yes, we'll go ahead and initiate that FERPA during the intake appointment. And basically we do have the student right to discuss accommodations, because that's mainly the reason why we know that they have autism, is because they're registered with our office, and we discuss accommodations along the way, along their academic journey. So yes, we have them go ahead and sign that. You may also want to sign one with the university, or if it's not here at UCA, any other university as well. So you'll already, kind of know what's going on, because as a student doesn't initiate, speaking to their faculty, they may not initiate other things as well. But then that's when it comes to UCA and in our program, that's what, Becky helps to navigate for them a tad bit, so.
We're
So
trying.
what-
Oh, go ahead.
No, what does that form do that you're talking about?
So basically, it allows you guys as parents.
The parents?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, it allows you as parents to be part of that academic journey for
Oh,
students,
okay.
as long
Yeah,
as you
that's
feel
good.
like
Because
you
most of
need
your
to.
students are 18, and that's their information not to be
Right.
shared unless
Right.
they give it. That's what that form is for.
Right.
Right.
Yes. And basically, some of our students decide not to sign. But that is, like I said, based on impact and disability. Based on how independent they already are when they come to UCA, and all of that. If they feel like they've got it, they've got it. And our students, when they register with our office, they do have a primary advisor. So if there's something that they don't understand, or something that has happened, with financial aid or academic advising or whatever, and they're just trying to put the pieces together, they do have someone from our office as well that can kind of maybe help them to navigate a little bit of that, because we'll be their academic advisors, their primary advisors through our office for as long as they're there.
And what is that form called?
We have a separate DRC FERPA form,
Okay.
but there is a actual, I guess, the universal FERPA form for UCA that covers, I believe. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I believe it covers financial aid, and it covers academic records. So,
Okay.
and it's on our website also.
And I was just going to mention, I think they're going to do final remarks here shortly down the hall.
Oh, great!
So
Yeah, that's
I
right.
just, I don't know.
It's
Seems
already
like I was thinking
5:48.
I wanted to read it.
That went by fast.
Seriously, we would love to see any of you if you're ever interested, or you just want to bring your do the fly and visit?
I would definitely love to.
Yeah, we had a
I have
junior
some
come yesterday.
trepidation as a parent because my son and her daughter's going to go to Compass Academy, which is a really small school. So I feel like thinking about going to UCA, I feel like I'm taking my son from a small pond or even a fish tank
Yeah.
to a large
The
lake or even
ocean.
an ocean. And so that intrepidates me as a parent. So just thinking about, you know, all these things that are tailored toward these kids in autism spectrum gives a lot of encouragement. So.
Good, great.
Thank you
Love
all
to
so
hear that.
much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
this
you
was
for
wonderful.
coming in.
You too.
It's kind of like students, but
Yeah, she didn't even know.
yeah, I promise.